Hey everybody, Troy here, and welcome to the third video in our PowerShell Fundamentals series. In this video, we're going to take a look at PowerShell Help. We're going to explore the database of helpful topics and information associated with all the commandlets that are loaded in your PowerShell environment, and we're going to walk through how we can use those to assist us when we're building our PowerShell tools. First thing we're going to take a look at is the commandlet called update help, which will download and ensure that our database is as current as humanly possible associated with the modules that are loaded in our PowerShell world. Then we're going to do is review the contents of a typical PowerShell help topic. I'm going to walk you through each section to see what's in there and what you can possibly find from there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can add additional special parameters to the get help commandlet that will help you access different elements here. Some of those parameters are going to be the dash full, the dash online, and the dash examples specifically. And then lastly, what I'm going to do is walk you through how to access and browse the special help files that PowerShell refers to as their about topics. And we'll be able to see a whole whack of additional information from there. So let's get at it. Okay, so what I want to do now is first off start off with my ISE. You'll notice that I am working in administrator privileges right out of the gate, and I'm working in the ISE with my script pane minimized and my command add-on pane temporarily turned off. In the last video, what we explored was how we could use help to find commandlets. Our first step in learning PowerShell is to figure out what commands are available to us. And we remember from the last video that PowerShell follows this special verb-noun syntax in its commandlets, which helps us try to intuitively figure out what the command is supposed to do, as in something like get process. So get process tells me instinctively what this command is intending to help me with, and we learn that we can add different parameters to it, and we can actually learn about that, learn about the command via the help command. Now, our help command, of course, is get help. And we were using this as a search to help us find information about commandlets. It was our wildcard search. So for example, if I wanted to learn about the commands associated with processes, I could say get help with the word process. And I'm going to return information associated with any commandlet that has the word process in it. That's a great way for me to find commands that I think are helpful to me. But what do we have to do after that? Once we found the command, we have to learn how to work it. We have to understand what elements, what parameters, how we actually make this thing work in our PowerShell world. It's fine to see a commandlet like stop process or start process. It sounds like we know what they do, but we have to take it one step further and use the help to figure out how we actually execute that command. And what we're going to do now is take a look at how we do that. The first thing we got to do is they'll make sure we're looking at the most updated help possible. PowerShell, as you remember, ships with Windows. So it was installed when you installed Windows. It may or may not have ever been used. And as such, it only knows what it knows out of the box. And that may have been, in some cases, years old. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have the ability to make sure we're looking at the current stuff. And I'm going to use the commandlet called update help to actually update that database. Watch what happens when I do that. Note, I am doing it as an administrator, which means that it's going to have the access to update files that are associated with the more protected environments within our PowerShell database. But I am just going to hit the enter key and watch it connect to the internet. Now, as you can see, it is executing. I can tell because that red stop operation button is working, and I can see successfully it's connected outside of the world, and it's updating all of these modules. Now, there's a special location where these modules live. That's how PowerShell knows how to do that, and we'll be doing this. We'll be looking at those in a video to come. But let's see what happened here. First, we want to read the information that PowerShell is giving back to us. Now, typically speaking, in a perfect world, that would have updated with no errors. However, we did get a red error. Let's read this and see exactly what it's telling me. It says it failed to update help for some specific modules. It listed two of them, the app vclient, Defender. It looks like there's a data utilities folder in here, and there's a few folders that it couldn't access additional help for. But the reason it says that it couldn't do it is that it was saying it was unable to connect to the help content. It doesn't mean that the commandlet didn't work. As a matter of fact, I think it did work. What the actual commandlet actually here is saying is that the server where that particular help was located was not available at the time. So we'd have to try again later, or possibly it's something on Microsoft's ends. But at the end of the day, this wasn't our fault. This actually did execute. You would see a different error if you try to run this as a standard user. It would actually tell you that I couldn't update help because access was denied, and that tells us that we didn't have the right elevated privileges for it. But now that I know that the PowerShell database has been updated, now I can actually explore to learn some stuff about the commands. So remember, I was using help to find information about things like processes. Okay, perfect. And it returned different processes associated with that. I could look for things like event logs or services or disk information or BIOS information or anything that I'm curious about. But once I've isolated a command, what I want to do is now learn something about the command. One of those commands might be, say, start process. So let's take a look at how I can learn more about start process. I'm going to type the get help command, which is the formal version of the help function, and I'm going to type get help for the commandlet called get process. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to hit that. Okay, now by default, PowerShell has returned information for me. So at the top of my return, I see a few things. First off, I see a bit of a synopsis. This tells me exactly what this commandlet should do. It's a very brief description of what this is intending to do. Now, I know intuitively that get process is getting processes, but sometimes the commands aren't quite so intuitive, and I'll have to get some help to tell me exactly what it does. If I don't know what the command is intended to do, I type it in with get help, and the synopsis should help me go a long way. Now, remember in our last video, we also saw that the power of PowerShell commandlets came from its parameters. We were able to add special parameters to different commandlets to filter, to be more specific, to enact different things when we're running it. When I hit get processes, I just got get process, I just got all the processes. But if I wanted to filter down for one specific process or certain services or specific information, well, that's where the parameters come in. And help, the very next thing it tells us is what kind of parameters are associated with this particular commandlet. And I see that I'm looking at these things called parameter sets. Okay, in this case, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And for every combination of parameters here, I have associated parameters with it. So get process carries a parameter called name. It also carries a parameter called computer name, file version info. Now we will take a look at what these parameters actually look like and what they mean in the next video. But for now, it's enough to see that I can specify certain things, and that tells me roughly what I have to work with when I'm executing this particular commandlet. I can scroll down and see a more detailed description. So the description part here now is beyond the regular synopsis. It's giving me more detail, and it tells me a little bit more about its input and output. And lastly, in my simple default help, it gives me a whole bunch of related elements here. So there's other commands associated with the word process. That was short, sweet, to the point, nothing much to see. It's very straightforward. However, that doesn't tell me everything that I have to work with, right? What I have to do is apply some additional parameters that actually give me more information. And one of those parameters that I can add to the get help function is let's see what parameters are available. I'm going to get help on get help, and let's read what I see. Okay, and again, same syntax. What I start off with is a synopsis, some syntax of my parameter sets, and then I scroll down and see my description, and look at this fairly lengthy description. There's a lot to read here, and even some related links. But let's take a quick look at some of these common parameters here. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't like looking at the parameter sets like this This is kind of tricky for me. There's a lot going on here. And again, we're going to go through this in the next video. But the other way I can survey these parameter sets is by actually using IntelliSense. Okay, so let's take a quick look here again. I'm going to say get help on a particular topic. Let's try, well, I don't even need to hit anything. I'm going to hit the dash, which brings up IntelliSense list of parameters associated with get help. I have name, I have path, I have category, component, role, detailed, full. Okay, let's see what some of these do. And I'm going to start off by asking about a particular command. Let's say get service. Now, in this case, what I want to do is I want to say dash, let's start with dash full. Okay, that's different than the default. I'm going to add that parameter. And remember, in PowerShell, parameters give you power. I'm going to hit enter, and let's see what happened now. Now I got a much, much bigger answer. Let's scroll all the way up and see where I started. I started off again with my name and synopsis. There we go. There's my parameter sets, okay, for my get service. Let's scroll down. There's my description. Oh, but here's the gold. Look at this. I have a detailed set of information on each parameter. So if I take a look at this parameter set and I say to myself, boy, I'll tell you, I don't know what this means, this required services. I think I might know, but I'm not sure how it works. Or what the heck is an input object and why does it affect me when I'm dealing with the commandlet get service? Well, the dash full parameter that I added expanded the basic detailed help. And now for each of these parameters, I actually have a detailed set of information that helps me understand the options I have with that commandlet. And I could scroll down and see there's my dependent services. It's a switch parameter that indicates that I'm only selecting services that depend on a previous service. Cool, I get that. Let's go down and take a quick look at that input object. Okay, so I'm dealing with the service controller that affects the service that I'm actually trying to retrieve. I could learn more about that from additional sources, but I have a general idea of what's going on. I also see what elements, what argument the parameter takes. Here's a parameter called name, and I can see that it takes a string. Okay, so the string tells me the type of information that it's looking for. And so if I scrolled up, I see string, string for exclude, display name, string. These are switch parameters. Those mean they're on or off. Sometimes you will see integers. Sometimes you're going to see floats. You're going to see all sorts of different types of PowerShell data. But this is really interesting because it gives me information about these parameters. Below these parameters, it tells me about what we call inputs and outputs. Now, one of the things we're going to learn in videos to come is this power of what we call PowerShell piping. We can connect commandlets from one to another, and they can feed information into another commandlet, or they can receive information from a commandlet. And this information right here, this input-output detail, tells me how this particular commandlet can react with others. Sometimes they can react nicely, other times they can't react at all. But this information tells me what's going on. Lastly, I see a notes section, and here's some more cool gold. Look at this, examples. All right, so I have examples that are specified in the help that tell me exactly what these commandlets do. Get service on its own gets all of the services on the computer. By default, it's my computer, my local computer. And it says it behaves as if I typed get service with a wildcard, which is kind of like saying get service all. Beautiful. So the default is basically assuming there's a wildcard there. Here's how I specify. Here's another example. And we can in tune what this commandlet does. Get service that the name includes the letters WIN, okay, with a wildcard at the end, excluding one service called WinRM. Okay, and so I can see here, there's an explanation here. So I can learn how to apply this commandlet via the examples. And most of these help topics, when I use the dash full parameter in the help topic, will give me all sorts of cool things to help me learn how to use that parameter. If I scroll down further, it gives me even more examples, and I keep scrolling until I get down to the section where I've got related links, which gives me more information to talk about this. Look at this. I have this also, this online help. Okay, this is a cool topic too. This helps me figure out exactly where this actual information is stored. So let's try something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explore another parameter. Let's go get help for get service. In this case, I'm going to go dash online. Okay, so I didn't use dash full. I said dash online this time. Let's see what happens. So PowerShell took me to the Microsoft Docs library where it has all the help information on get service. Now, this is really the same thing as me looking at get help with the dash full parameter. The nice thing though is that the formatting is often a lot easier to read. So it's giving me my parameter sets here. Cool. A description. And look at this. I get examples. Lovely. And I've got color coding. I've got examples that can help me use this particular topic or commandlet. And it's nice, easy to read. Often I'm working with more than one monitor when I'm dealing with PowerShell. So I use the dash online parameter to open up the web version where I've got quick things like my Control F to find information that I'm looking for, or I can scroll easily, or I can keep it on the screen while I try to type it into my script or command so I don't have to scroll up in my PowerShell window to read what I was after. So the dash online takes me to the full help in a nice, easy to read format according to my default browser. Wicked. It's gone all the way down here. There's my notes. There's my related links. These are now web links here. Lovely. So now you've seen the dash full and the dash online. Let's take a look at one last one. If I wanted to get very specific, sometimes I'm quite clear on what the particular commandlet does. I know what get service does. I get it. I know what it is. But maybe I'm fighting some of the syntax. I'm trying to learn how this works in practice. I want to build a commandlet. And I'm really only interested in the examples. This is gold. I can hit that, and PowerShell will return that subsection of the help that's limited only to the examples that are most useful for me in my search. Neat stuff. So as you can see, what I've done here is I've used the get help command to give me more information. Your PowerShell learning is usually going to evolve by A, figuring out if there sounds like there's a command associated with what you want to do. You'll say to yourself, geez, PowerShell, are you able to help me do this? And you're going to do some searches. Remember, we used help with wildcard searches, or we used our command line, our command add-on, and we use this as a search window. Or we used this commandlet called get command, and we did some searches there. We also looked at how we could use our tab complete until we sort of zoned in on what we're after. Regardless, finding the command is only half the battle. It gives us a good start. What we really need is to get familiar with looking at the help on that particular command. And I can simply type get help and then select the command that I'm looking for, such as like, let's go get, alias. Let's try that one. Get alias. I have different parameters such as full, examples, online. I have all these options. Now, there certainly are more options. I wonder where I'd find out about what these parameters are. Well, I'm going to find out by getting help on the get help commandlet dash full. And when I look at this, again, just as expected, I have a ton of information on what these particular parameters do. Let's scroll all the way up because there's all my parameters. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. There they are. Okay, so component tells me what it does. Detailed tell me what it does. Examples, that's one we've played with. Dash full, we've played with that one. We've played with dash online. It tells me what's going on. And you could learn all about these other parameters via the help command here. So loads of information, and we're going to be spending a ton of time here to help us execute these commands properly, because when a commandlet doesn't go the way we want, or it doesn't do what we intend, or for some reason it's giving us output that we don't expect, well, the help will answer why that will happen. And we're going to look in here quite a bit. We have to learn how to decipher this. Loads of useful information. I'm going to type a quick clear host here. And lastly, the other thing that we want to take a look at is these special topics that aren't related to a particular commandlet, but are related to a particular topic. And PowerShell refers to these as we call them our about topics. They're about a certain thing. And I can type in the commandlet called get help. And if I just start typing the word about with an underscore, and then I hit my tab, you can see that there are help topics on hundreds of different types of information inside PowerShell. If I wanted to learn something about, I don't know, comparison operators, that's a good one. Let's hit enter, and you'll see that I have a whack of information here on comparison operators. So if I'm trying to come from another language like Python or Java or something like that, I can actually learn the syntax associated with these comparison operators in this particular document. Does our other parameter, our -full work? It sure does. Take a look. Now, ultimately, I had the full command already because this is a special type of help topic, but I can access more information about certain things, usually by keyword. And so I could type in things like help. Let's go about, and let's just hit enter. Okay, well, there we go. Look at this. There's my alphabetical list of help commands. Aliases, arithmetic operators, arrays, breaks, classes, common parameters. We've seen those in one of our syntax lists there, but they're all really here ready for me to take a look. Let's learn more about parameters in general. Look at that, help about parameters. Okay, so let's just type that in, help about parameters, and I can use my tab complete to get me there. There we go. This is more information here that can definitely help me with my PowerShell way. Okay, so hopefully what I've shown you is that this PowerShell get help is full. It's a treasure trove of data and information. And it's really going to help us not only once we learn that a command exists, the hard part is figuring out how and where to use it. And that's where the help comes in. And so we can see now that all we have to do is type that commandlet associated with the help with a couple of special parameters, and we are off to the races. And so basically, we are now ready to walk away here. What we've done here is we have now used the update help command. You know how to update your PowerShell session to make sure that your database is good and thorough and up to date. You're also, now you can see what typical elements are inside those PowerShell help topics. And now you know what to look for when you're looking for it. And then lastly, you learn how to add some special parameters to the get help commandlet. The -full, the -online, the -examples, all of which is trying to help you filter or expand upon certain topics. And speaking of topics, there is a whole selection of special about topics that are associated with special PowerShell concepts that we can read right in that browser. And so, huge piece of information in here, and we've got lots to learn as we go through those particular topics. One of the upcoming videos, we're going to take a detailed look at those parameters, and I think we should do that next. See you in the next video.